get with you.
Yeah, we're actively working on that.
Sure. Well,
Well, the good thing is that when that happens, when in case anybody doesn't know, you should have all received an email if you are with LACA. If you were actively working in student information, you are fine. But if you are newly logging in to Progress Book, to student information, to any of the applications, you're getting an error message. So we are working on that. And the good thing is that Frontline gets alerted of that instantly when that happens. So they saw it before I even submitted it to them, and they were on top of it and they're working on it. So um, hopefully during our meeting, I'll get a message here really soon saying that it's been fixed, and that then you guys can send a message out to all of your folks.
I really appreciate you and Joey being right on that. Actually, I was calling Joey and he goes, "Yeah, I just emailed you." Wow, that's great. That's great service right there. So appreciate that.
Perfect.
Um,
So hopefully it'll be fixed very soon.
One thing just for you to know, Megan, not to dominate this conversation, but just to know is that we seem to be having a different experience on Chromebooks than we do on PCs. So I'm hearing from a few different people that they can log in through their Chromebook, but not their PC.
Oh, okay.
Just something to know. And that may be true, that may not be true, but just something to share. Sure.
Were they already logged in?
I don't think so.
Okay. Huh. All right. Well, I will let the developers know that. So thank you.
Welcome.
We'll go ahead and get started. It's a little after 9:30, so welcome everyone. And welcome to all the new faces that we have on our meeting today. We have several new folks on there, so we want to welcome you guys as well. Today we're going to go over mainly all of the updates that are coming. One of the nice things is we also have Frontline with us today. So Craig Munyon is here with us, and he's going to go over a lot of updates. And then we also have Dean Reinecke here, and he is going to also hit on a few updates as well for us. So we'd like to welcome both of them, and we are very excited that they could take time out of their busy schedule to join us and to kind of talk to us about all the different things that are coming and some different features that maybe we didn't know about. So we want to welcome them. And once we go into discussion with them, we will then go. I will kind of take back over, and our team will go through a couple of different slides moving from there. So I am going to give Craig the ability to share. I believe you have it, Craig. If you want to go ahead and.
Okay, just a sec here.
And of all mornings, we have our meeting, Craig.
Yes. Good timing. All right, can you guys see
Yeah.
browser? All right, let me go ahead and start this. And all right, cool. All right, good morning, everybody. I actually am going to kick it over to Dean to start us off. So, Dean, you want to take it away?
Yeah, you want to just go to the first slide there, Craig? And
Sure.
yeah, this is just our quick little agenda. We're going to do some introductions. You guys met Craig Munyon. He's our senior group product manager for Progress Book. And I'm Dean Reinecke. I'm the client success manager for Frontline. I'm just going to handle a couple general updates, and then we'll let Craig go through all the Progress Book updates and do some question and answers at the end as well. So the next slide that we have there is our Frontline wheel that we have. And in the upper right corner of that, I just want to highlight some products that we have. Our human capital management products, Absence and Time, which is an absence and substitute management system, formerly known as ASOP. We've also got time and attendance and flex pay options there. And down towards the bottom, we have an inventory management system, help desk system, And then what we're mainly going to talk about today is on the left side in purple, our student management side, which is the progress book side, and school health management. But we've got a lot of these other products that Frontline offers to you all. And then one other one to note is the ring around the whole wheel is our data analytics product. So we have student analytics, human capital, financial budgeting analytics products that districts use. So this is kind of just our wheel of all the various products that we have. If you're interested in some of those out, I can show you a little bit how to access some of that and see that. So, and just for reference, Craig, on the next slide, go ahead. Well, I guess it's got some animation there, but these are current LACA districts that are using some of those other subscriptions. So you may or may not be aware of what's going on in your districts, but those are some of those products being used at LACA from Frontline. Okay. And then just next slide, I got a couple marketing items to go through with you. Frontline in general, I just want to let you guys know that we are in all 50 states. We do have a very high retention rate in the United States there, and we are basically K-12 and K-12 only. It's our only customers that we provide services to are K-12 school districts. Okay. And then the next slide is we're going to start narrowing in a little bit on Progress Book SIS. So again, we are the largest SIS in Ohio. We're in your ITC, we're in your districts, we're in your neighbor districts. We're all across the state of Ohio with Progress Book SIS. Okay, the next slide. I'm trying to get through this pretty quickly so we can give you the bulk of time to talk about Progress Book, but there are a couple items I want to just hit on real quick, the ones I kind of have circled here. The first one is just a reminder that Progress Book is purposely built for Ohio. Progress Book started out as Dazzle, still referred to as Dazzle throughout the state. That was basically developed and designed for school districts in Ohio and for the ITCs, and it's only sold in Ohio. So that's a big plus with us. The next one I want to talk about just briefly is compliance and security. We take that very seriously. There's been a lot of talk recently about cybersecurity, and we will be providing ITCs some documentation soon on Frontline security on this. They can share that information with you guys as well. One item to note is that all the Frontline hosted sites like LACA are connected to the Management Council's Secure Data Center, and it's accessible only through the OECN or the Ohio Education Computer Network, which is a private network, which provides us another layer of protection for the school districts. Okay. And the last one on the top is really a very important one. A huge item is our client partner commitment. At Frontline, ITCs are our partner. We rely upon them. We only work with districts through ITCs. It's a partnership that we've had over many years, and it's something that we really value. It also provides districts a way to access the ITC and then also Frontline. We have advisory committees and user groups that can take your feedback in to the ITCs, and the ITCs provide that to us. So we are listening to you guys on enhancement requests and certain things like that. That is another big item as far as Progress Book SIS goes. All right. And then mission driven. We are a partner with all K-12 schools in Ohio. And I just want to show you real quick if I can, let me see if I can take control of the Zoom. I want to show you real quickly. Can you guys see our website?
Yep.
If you need more information on this, you can go to frontlineeducation.com. And if you want to see anything on all these other products that we provide, you can just go to what we do. If you want to look on time and attendance, you click on that and it'll come up with a brief description about our time and attendance, absence and substitute management systems. So that's all there on the Frontline website. And one thing I wanted to point out to you too, if you need some information in your school district or someone's curious about cybersecurity and our commitment, click on the little magnifying glass and just put in security and hit return, and you will come to a page here where you can look at commitment to security. And basically it'll guide you through some of the things that we're doing with our software, with our data, some of the certifications and things that we go through for security. So that's a good reference if you need that. Okay.
Dean, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
There's been a rumor that Frontline does websites for school districts. Is that true?
Does websites for school district?
Yeah, like website support.
You mean like build your website?
Correct.
And no, I am not aware of any solution that we have that does that.
I didn't think so, but I wanted to double check because I did hear that rumor. So,
Okay, I can check on that, but I am not aware of that at all. So,
thank you, Dean.
okay. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I just wanted to give you that link so you have some information if you need to go and get that. And Craig, next slide, I guess. I just have a couple of breaking updates, I guess, that I wanted to give you guys. Again, mentioning cybersecurity, we are working with all of the ITCs right now to roll out our new security platform that will provide multi-factor authentication to ProgressBook. It's also going to be the first step in getting you guys single sign-on options with ProgressBook. And that relates to all those other products that I also mentioned back on that wheel. Within the next year or two, all of our products will be under the same platform. And as a school district person logs into ProgressBook or Absence, recruiting and hiring or whatever, they'll basically be able to jump from one application to another with a single sign-on. So, and we do have a quick update on SPS. I know we no longer have any districts at LACA using our SPS module, but we did decide that we are going to sunset that module in June of 2026. The majority of school districts now in Ohio are using Same Goal IEP Anywhere. So as part of that strategy, we're going to shift our development resources that we have on SPS over to ProgressBook, and that will help us get a few things done on the SIS side. And also as part of that, we're going to start working to enhance the user experience for those using IEP Anywhere, and we'll add some integration into our gradebook and SIS for IEP Anywhere into the future. So that's one update that we just announced here to the ITCs recently. So, and I think I got through my part, so I'm going to let Craig take over from here.
All right, thanks, Dean. All right, so yeah, I'm going to focus in more on the ProgressBook specific updates. So we'll talk a little bit about SIS first. We'll hit on Gradebook and Data Map as far as what's coming out here in the next release. And then I will go through a little bit of the roadmap themes that we'll be hitting and some of the bigger items that we'll be looking at working on for 2025. So we'll start with SIS. We'll start with the items that'll be in our 24.2 release, which will be coming out here next month in February. We'll go through some specific enhancements and defect corrections in SIS. We'll get into EMA specific stuff, and then we'll also touch on some report updates. So we'll go ahead and start with student information in this next release. The first item I wanted to hit on concerns assessment information. So this is around the OELPA and specifically the alternate OELPA. So there's two new modality score areas that need to be tracked and reported moving forward. So we've updated the OELPA maintenance page in SIS so that you can start recording those scores and keeping track of them. So if you go in to this page And when you hit the required test type, if it's standard, you won't see these two new scores, but if you choose alternate, the two new score areas will become available to put those scores in for both receptive and productive. Once those scores are entered, then they'll show up on the main grid so that you can see them for that particular test date. And again, those will only show up if it's an alternate assessment for OWELPA. As part of that as well, we're updating the OWELPA import process. So now that a lot of the OST assessments have been moved into that standard results layout, when we process that the OWELPA file, whether it's for the standard or the alternate assessment, we'll pull in those new modality score areas as well as part of that. So they'll load it there. All right, moving over to grad points. We're doing a lot of work on the grad points area in general, based on feedback we're getting and some of the changes that have to be made. One of the things is for the complete college coursework area for competency, now there's the 3 membership codes for the alternate competency CCP. Once those are entered for those memberships and the job runs to calculate the grad points information, it'll automatically go through and update those on the grad point screen. So if they've met English or they've met math, or they've met both, the corresponding update will show on the grad point screen based on those memberships being entered. And then also on the summary screen now for competency, it'll show met when the student has completed their college coursework and attempted the end of course exam twice. So as long as those 2 things have been met, we'll go ahead and update that screen to show that they've met competency in that scenario. And then also on grad points for the new elective subject areas that we added in the prior release that you have now, we've added those for those 5. So those will be available to show up on that summary screen, as well as on the core overflow page. They'll also be available there now to include in the core overflow rules also. So we put these out in the last release. This release will add them to those pages. All right. This next item is specifically for any non-pubs. If we've had an issue with the way that we generate progress book IDs for documents that get put in the vault. And what those are is for when we put report cards in that end up showing up in parent access. Usually we use the SSIDs for that process, but since we don't have those for the non-pubs, we generate a separate progress book ID for that. So what was happening was in some cases, those were getting duplicated, which was causing problems with those students getting put in the vault for their report cards. So we've overhauled that process of how those IDs get created. So that'll no longer happen. So for any non-pubs, if you've had that problem, once 24.2 gets installed, we'll have that corrected as well. All right, I will pause there. And check the chat here real quick if there's any questions. But we're good. All right. And I should have mentioned when I started too. If you have any questions, just feel free to throw them in the chat or stop me. All right. So on to everybody's favorite topic here of civil rights. I feel like this has been the year that this is a lot of what we've been working on. So I know we're underway here for this to be open right now. And we had gotten the vast majority of the changes for the 23-24 reporting into the current release that you have out there right now. But we did find out that the Civil Rights Department made some additional updates to the documentation in August. So there's a handful of changes that we're putting into 24.2 to accommodate that. So I just wanted to call those out so everybody's aware of those are what's going on with those. So, and if you're working on that right now, that these will be coming in 24.2. So the first one is that for the preschool section, there is a new table, section 2, where they are collecting some yes/no indicators based on how those for EL and section 504. So what we'll do is add a new section to the manual entry page, and then those values that are selected there will flow through onto the PDF version of the report and then also into the CSV download. For discipline, they added a new discipline 1 table. This essentially is the exact same data that I just talked about in that preschool section above. They're the same questions, same answers, and we checked with them to see if that was the way it was supposed to be or not, and they said yes. So what we're going to do is, based on the data that's put in for that preschool section, how you have it entered in there, we'll go ahead and automatically create those attributes and populate those values so that it only has to be entered one time for those particular questions. And then for restraint or seclusion, there is a new table where they're collecting a couple attributes on, or indicators, I should say, whether or not those are being used. So we are already currently have a place on the manual entry page where you can go in and put the number of instances in there. What we'll do is if you've entered a value in for those instances, we'll go ahead and automatically populate those indicators based on if there's a value there. So if you have had any instances of, let's say, mechanical restraint, we'll go ahead and mark that as yes. If there aren't any, we'll say no. So that hopefully will save a little bit of time of having to go through and fill out those fields. And then for discipline in the 9 table for corporal punishment, they updated, this is just an update to the wording on this question. They changed the way that the question's being asked a little bit from what we originally had. So now it's, instead of, does the school have any students who receive corporal punishment for disciplinary purposes? They've changed that to, did the school use corporal punishment to discipline students in grades K-12? So just a note that they've changed the wording on that. And then we've had a few reports this year as we've gone through both civil rights cycles where in certain cases there's some bad page breaks happening as far as where the tables are splitting in the PDF version of the report. So we spent quite a bit of time going through and fixing some of that pagination so that it'll make it easier to read as you're parsing through there. So I know there were some tables that were breaking in some weird spots or putting a little bit too much padding. So there were some big areas in the report. So that has been improved to make that report easier to read through. So as far as civil rights goes for 23-24, I think everybody's aware it opened December 9th. Last time I checked, it's still set to close on March 7th. We'll keep checking that to see if there's any other changes, but I think I'm also thankful that we, now that we'll be back on the 2-year cycle, we'll get a break from this next year. So hopefully we can get this wrapped up this year and we'll move on. So again, these changes are part of 24.2, which we're expecting to send out here in early February. So hopefully we'll have those out here in plenty of time. We'll get about a month or so to get those additional changes in there. So. All right. Any questions on civil rights stuff? Let me check real quick. Okay, just when's it gonna come? So I think we're good there. So. All right. A couple of specific defect related changes that I want to call out for a couple different areas that will be fixed. So for anybody using the district transfer functionality, there's a case where the student summative race is getting reset if the student had Hispanic Latino set to yes and they had multiple racial groups checked. It was getting set back to the default for the in that case. So we fixed that. So anytime that happens, it'll keep whatever that summative race is set to when they come over. And then in the same area, if you were doing a student transfer in a future year, the disability condition was not coming over as it was set in the prior district. So if you do it in the current school year, it's okay. If you're doing it in the future school year, it was resetting it. So we fixed that so that will stay the same when it comes over for disability condition. And then back to around assessments. So for anybody that's not aware, we do have an assessment import process built into SIS that will accept a file out of ODEX. So you can download assessment results records out of ODEX, take that file over and import that through the SIS side. This would be for any of those assessment types that are available in ODEX. Specifically for the preschool COS, we were having an issue with that, importing those correctly. But that has been corrected in 24.2. So if anybody's tried that lately and had an issue with it, we'll fix that moving forward. For the homeschool import, if you use that to bring students in for registration purposes, we had some reports in the fall where it was starting to time out if you had more than 30 students in the file when you went to do the homeschool import. Typically prior to this, you could do around 100 students with no issues and it would bring them all in. So we went through and made some updates to the way the matching process works. So when it goes through and tries to decide whether that student already exists in your district to decide if it should do a strict match or not, to get back up to that normal 100 students or so that'll come in. So if you've hit that issue trying to do those imports, that'll be improved in the next release. All right, we'll pause there if there's anything on any of those specific SIS changes. Next, we'll dive into more EMIS specific changes that will be in 24.2. All right. So this is just in relation to the OLPA change that I talked about earlier with the maintenance pages being updated to track that information. We'll also include that in the FA transfer process. So for those two new modality scores, once they're put in there, once you go to run the transfer to send that information to the data collector, if those are there, it'll include those two new scores as well. All right, on the DN record for district and building information for the medical groups, when that information was copied up from last year, when we went to reset those values, we found out we did not copy up those attributes for those 4 listed there. So if you go to the district and building page right now to go set those, they're not available there right now. So as part of this release, we've gone ahead and copied those up and fixed the process that copies those up so that next year we won't have that issue. And then for the special ed verification, right now, if you go run the special ed verify, there's an error being thrown in the situation where a kid has a event type of CIAP and also has an extended school year value set to asterisk. That's a valid scenario and it should not be throwing that error in that case. So we fixed the verify to correct that so you won't see that error anymore. And then along the same lines with the verification for CTERM EMIS, when you go to run it in update mode, a lot of the update screens, I should say, for things like CTERM EMIS will record the last time it was run and who ran it for each building. On this page in particular, that stopped working, so it wasn't including that information on the screen. So now anytime anybody goes in there and runs it per building, it'll update that last run date and who ran it so that you can always see the last time it was run for that building. So there's a couple other places I'll note that we've checked to make sure the other update processes are recording that information, and we'll make sure that they're all doing that appropriately moving forward. All right, for the exiting student follow-up records, there are 3 columns that we were not automatically updating if you go ahead and re-import that file from due. You can see the 3 there, I, J, and K. So we had a request in that if you go ahead and re-import the file, that we would go ahead and update those based on what due's giving us. It's a yes, no value for those 3. So once 24.2 is installed, we will just go ahead and update those to what we're getting from due in that file. And then bug fix for the calendar transfer file. So there are the options on the sub-calendar maintenance page where you can see in the screenshot it's a little bit small there, but if for the ones for if students aren't expected to be in school any day of the week, or if they are expected to attend every Saturday and Sunday, the problem that we had was that for Saturday and Sunday, we were not creating those attributes correctly in the transfer file if those boxes were checked, which was causing the file to fatal out when it got to the data collector. So we've made the update to correct those attributes. So now when you go to transfer that, if you have that situation, we'll put that weekend Saturday and weekend Sunday attribute in there correctly. Hopefully this didn't impact too many people, but if it did impact you, then in 24.2 we'll have that corrected. So. All right, any questions on any of that specific EMIS or any of those specific EMIS items? Okay. All right, so next I'm going to hit on some just specific report updates across this. The first one being on the graduation plan report. So now if this is for the web exam for Okta, there's a section on there that previously we hadn't included any information in as far as when to mark completed. But now that that can be tracked in the exemptions requirement area, if the students met the requirements for the web exam, when the grad plan runs, it will mark that as completed and highlight it in green like the other sections in the grad plan to indicate that that has been met. Also, for anybody that uses the SAT pre-ID out of the Analytics Hub, there is a new file layout this year. So we've gone ahead and made the changes for the layout so that it'll match what's needed for that new SAT pre-ID layout. So if you need to run that, once the release is installed, you can go grab that new layout.
Craig, can I ask you a question about the grad plan?
Sure.
I'm just hearing this, I haven't verified it, but I heard something to the effect that agriculture is not listed in the grad plan for
Yes.
Knox County, Ohio.
So
Did I
yes.
mention Knox County?
So it actually, the option to choose that for the career field interests isn't available right now on the exemptions page to choose. So we've also added that so that you can choose that moving forward. So that'll also be in the 24.2. I'm glad you asked that because I did not include a slide for that now that you asked that. So
Can you share that with our membership, being our guidance counselors and advisors at the high school?
I actually, Matt, I have a note into her letting her know that that's going to be addressed in this next release also, because I think she was the one that brought it to our attention.
Christine?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Knox County, guys. Knox County.
All right. Also in the Analytics Hub for House Bill 410, the absence thresholds detail report that's out there. In the summary report and previously on this detail version, we would highlight any record that the trigger date had passed within the last 7 days. On the detail report specifically, it was not highlighting in blue anymore. So we've corrected that so that if you're using that report, you can see that more easily. And then switching over to transcripts with the change for the military enlistment seal being updated to military seal, we updated the images so that it'll print that military seal image instead of the military enlistment seal image. This is the one we pulled off from Due, so that if you're using those transcript seals, it'll pull the updated one. And along with that, even though it's not specifically report related, but I wanted to mention while we were talking about that, we've also gone through and updated that terminology in other places that it shows up in SIS. So on the student exemptions requirement page, there we'll update that label. And then also on the graduation plan, anywhere that text shows as the enlistment seal, it'll say military seal. One other change that we are making on the student exemptions requirement page in this release as well is that we used to have, like we did on the grad plan itself, but we have the seal descriptions that are out there now. But to make the page a little bit more cleaner, and since those descriptions seem to be updated frequently, we're just going to take the descriptions off that page and add a link to the due site where those are at, so that if you need to see what the descriptions are, you can go there quickly and get the latest and greatest on that, and not have to wait for us to update the descriptions there. So just an item to call out on that. All right, I think that's it for the report updates. So we'll move on to 24.2 gradebook update items next. Let me pause just for a second here.
Craig, I want to just let everybody know that the error from earlier has been resolved for LACA. So if you guys want to pass any messages on to your folks, you can go ahead and let them know that all is resolved now.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan.
Yep.
All right. And can you guys, I just want to make sure, can you hear me okay too? I'm fighting a little bit. I think this lovely temperature swings we've been having here in Ohio the last couple of days are messing with me a little bit. So I just want to make sure I'm loud enough. So, all right, thank you. All right, so for gradebook for 24.2, one of the things that we have been kind of intentionally making slow changes are on our enhancements to the UI UX, the front end of gradebook as we move forward here. So last year, we made kind of big changes in SIS as far as how everything worked with the banners and things like that. But we want to update gradebook as well to modernize it, but we're going to be kind of intentionally taking a slow approach to this so that we don't make any big changes that would require huge amounts of training, things like that moving forward. So you'll see slow incremental changes coming out over the coming releases. And one of those things that will be in this next release is on the class dashboard. We're introducing the concept of action buttons on pages, so that this is something that's pretty familiar across all the frontline apps. But for something that you're going to do very frequently on a particular page, in this release, it'll be on the class dashboard. This is not in the version that's out in production right now, so you'll see this show up when the teacher goes in there. There'll be a new add an assignment button available in the upper right. So something that they're frequently doing, going in and adding an assignment. That way you don't have to hunt for a link to find that in either on the right hand side or in the middle there. So just a kind of a time saving thing to go through and add that. So you'll see those show up in other pages as we move forward, but this will be the first one we add there. And I'll be touching on some of the other changes we're making from a UI UX perspective here as we hit some of the other items in gradebook. Another change, it's a smaller one, is anybody that's going through and transferring staff. So if you have teacher leave and you want to transfer their information over to somebody else, something like that. One of the requests that we had was to include what the role was on this page, so that you could look at this list and quickly figure out if they have multiple roles, if they have a teacher and a principal role, so you can separate them quickly. And then we've also added a staff ID there, which is actually a database ID. That's probably more for the for ITC staff that are looking at this to help them as well. But this was a big request as a time-saving thing, so that when you're cleaning up some of those records and everything, make it a lot easier to go through there rather than having to bounce out and figure out who you're looking for. So you'll see that information in 24.2. And then this is just more of a general thing. Some of the reports in gradebook, the way the radio buttons work, had changed a little bit depending on what report you were on. So we've gone through and made sure that those are all working in a standard way to make sure that those reports are all working as expected. So if you've seen anything kind of funny with the way some of those are working, we've gone through and fixed those up as well. All right, so one of the big projects that we've been working on and that we're continuing to work on for gradebook is overhauling the lesson plan module. So this is something that will be coming out. This won't be officially turned on in the next release. It will be coming out in a future release, but I wanted to let you know that it's coming. The lesson plan module itself is probably one of the oldest modules that we have in Gradebook. It's been around since the beginning. And it hasn't had a lot of love in the last couple of years, in a while, I will say. So we're kind of attacking this first in a way that we can overhaul this. We can introduce some of the new concepts that we're putting in place for the way that the app works and functions, and provide a much better experience as far as the lesson plans go. So the way that this will work is we have it going out. We're gonna beta it, work with LACA and some of the ITCs on it, get some feedback on it, and then we'll release it out to everybody. So this will be coming out in the future, something to look for, and I'll show you what it looks like here in a sec. This will also include, we want to do some additional enhancement work around admin and principal lesson plan capabilities, as far as going in and looking at them, sharing of lesson plans, just making all of that information available throughout the gradebook. And then I had mentioned on the UI UX items. So just to kind of give you a sneak peek of what it'll look like, if you use the other frontline apps, this will probably look very familiar. But just a much cleaner, easier to read, easier to use layout. So we'll still have all the same functionality that's available in the lesson plans currently, as far as using standards and scheduling them and sharing them. We're just looking to make this a lot nicer and more straightforward. So like I said, there'll be more information about this when we get ready to release it for everybody. That we'll share with LACA to get shared out, but just so you're aware that that's going to be coming. All right, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about, since we're talking about Gradebook, for parent access specifically. So last year we released the enhancement to allow you to show assessment scores in parent access for based on the whatever House bill it was, it's escaping me right now, but the requirement to show the OST scores out there. At the time, we had put in the majority of the state assessment scores so that you can show those as well. But at the time, we didn't include ACT or SAT, so we want to make those available to show. And then we're also looking at being able to select assessments out of data map to show in parent access as well if you're running data map. So we'll have to build a process that allow you to go in and select the assessments and which scores from data map you'd want to show up, but that is something we want to get in there. The other thing that we want to add here is a area in parent access admin that would allow you as a district to go in and place a link to either a due site that has explanations, or if you have a custom link to some documentation you want to post out there to explain what some of the scores mean. We've gotten feedback that scores are out there and great, but the parents necessarily know what any of it means. Probably not. So this would give you a way to be able to go in there and put something out there that they could get to get some further information on that. So that's something we will be working on here to come out in the near future, but I just want to let you know that's something we're looking at.
Greg, you had mentioned data map specifically. What about third-party pieces of, or third-party scores like COGAP, for example, or if I had another piece of software other than data map, could I feed that in there as well?
We'd be looking at those scores if they're loaded into data map specifically, because that's where we import and store all of those scores. Is that where you're heading with that, or were you looking if there was another?
No, I was looking at a separate.
Yeah, right now we're looking at those scores that would be in data map, since we already have that data structure and everything there for it.
So I need to feed all my stuff into data map work here.
For the third party stuff, all the state assessments and everything that you're loading into SIS, and that would all still come out of SIS. It would just be any of those third parties that we're already loading into data map. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, and speaking of data map, we'll jump into that next. So these will be the changes that will be in this next release. So one of the changes that we made last year, I believe, was the way that when you download a student file that has the gifted areas in it, we had split, based on a previous request, we had split it out into rows instead of columns. And when we did that, we got a lot of feedback that people wanted the columns back. So we are going back to breaking it into columns. So what I mean by that is when you're in the student screen in data map, and so for the whatever gifted areas that it's showing based on what's saved for that student in SIS. When you go run the file export option, CSV file, what it'll do now is each of those gifted areas will have its own column so that you'll have one student record with each gifted area that's saved for that particular student in the file. What you have right now is it'll break it out into each individual row per gifted area. So we're just pushing it back there so it's easier to sort and use that information. All right, also for data map for RIMS. So we've had a lot of requests to allow districts to select additional assessments that they want to be able to include on RIMS. So along with the state approved assessments, to say which third party or diagnostic assessments I want to make available to add to RIMS. So now on either the initial screening when you're entering a RIM or the diagnostic measures, there's a area you can go in and specify which additional assessments you want to include. And when those are in there, we'll break them up in that drop down so that teachers can see, here's the list of approved ones I can choose from. Here's the list of additional assessments I can choose from to pull those scores in. And this is also on the progress monitoring as well. So anywhere you can automatically go pull those scores in that have been loaded from those files, that will be available now as well. All right. For anybody that is using DIBELS 8, we were having, just want to call out, we were having an issue with importing those records in due to layout change. That's been updated as well, so we can import those successfully now. And then in the fall release, we had added the ability to RIMS that you could record tutors that were used, but we did not account for the fact that when you went to delete the RIMP, it would need to delete those as well, which was causing an issue. So we fixed that as well, so that if you need to delete a RIMP moving forward, you should be able to delete those cleanly also. All right, and then what we're working on for future data map updates is we're continuing to work on the state RIMP template changes. The state put out the new template for RIMPs last year, some different additional information that could be tracked and everything. So we're continuing to work on that to get as closely aligned to that as we can. And then any additional RIMP changes that we'll have to make in the future. So, all right, now I'm going to jump over to Parent Access Mobile specifically. So in November, we pushed a new release out to the app stores for iOS and Android for the Parent Student mobile app. This was mainly a maintenance release, but we have to periodically we have to make changes to comply with the App Store's requirements. This didn't have there's one functionality change in it I'll show you here shortly, but for the most part, this was what that was for. I just thought it was interesting that to see most users have auto updates turned on. So as soon as we push out a new version of the mobile app for parents and students, everybody will pretty much get it that same day. It's something like 95% of people have auto updates turned on. So as we make changes in the future, you just know that as soon as we push it out, pretty much everybody will get it. So the one change that we did make in this release is that based on some feedback, for if you haven't seen the parent student app, there's a class schedule page that lists if their homeroom, their counselor, if they have any fees, that type of information at the top, and then their whole schedule would show up below that. But depending on how many items were turned on here, it could cause you to have to scroll quite a bit. So we just moved the schedule itself into its own page to make it easier to see the schedule information from the app. So that's the version that's out right now that's available to everybody. The next one that we're working on has a number of enhancements in it, and this should be coming out. This is in final testing here, so I expect this should be out here in the next month or so. There is a new assignment search feature, which I'll show you here on the next couple slides. It's also going to include a way that if a teacher has marked an assignment late, we can show those late indicators throughout, so the student and parent will know that that's been marked late. We've added a new area where they can get to a what's new link. So if they want to see what's been updated lately in the app, they can. And then there's also going to be a dark mode option. So very similar to, you're probably used to a lot of the other apps that are available out there. If you have dark mode turned on in your system settings, it'll default to that, or with light mode, it'll default to that. So once this is out there, the app will honor that and will adjust accordingly for that. So, but the assignment search enhancement I was talking about was that we had some feedback that, if across all the classes, the students wanted to be able to go in and quickly look up an assignment instead of having to go into the class, go tap on the class, go in and figure out where the assignment is in the list. If there was a way to search for it, it would be a lot easier. So we're adding a feature that allows them to search all their classes at once, either by if they know what the name is or when the due date is. So now when this is released, when you log in that left-hand screenshot, you'll see that magnifying glass up in the upper right-hand corner. When you tap on that, it'll take you to the assignment search feature. And as soon as you start typing anything, it'll return any result that matches that. So again, this will search all the classes at one shot. It'll search all their missing assignments, all their upcoming and due assignments. It's just a quicker way to find a particular assignment that you're looking for instead of having to go through each class. Just some other general information on the mobile app I wanted to share. Our usage continues going up since the start of school, so that's good to see. Every year we keep getting more and more people moving over to using the mobile app. So, we still have the web version available, but then we're seeing people migrate over to using the mobile version. And I also thought it was interesting that twice as many students are using the mobile app as parents right now. So it's just, we can't tell exactly which student or which parent's using it. We don't track down to that level. Don't want to, but we can tell if it's a parent account or a student account logging in. So it's just interesting to see that that's the case right now. And then as far as the ratings go, we're still holding strong as far as, anything above a 4 is considered pretty solid. So I'm happy to see and share that, both App Store ratings are good. So that means people are enjoying using it. So, all right. How are we doing on time? All right, all right. So the last bit I wanted to go through here was our kind of upcoming roadmap initiatives. So these are the bigger items that we'll be focused on in 2025. I've already touched on some of them and some of the other items I've gone through. So this is kind of we look at this as themes of things that we'll be working on throughout the year. So the smaller items that all roll up to these things. So first one, as always, we'll continue any of the remaining fiscal year 25 and upcoming FY26 EMIS changes that'll come. I think as far as once 24.2 is installed, we'll have the vast majority of the 25 changes in, short of any other updates coming in the spring from due. But then we'll start on the 26 changes. We had talked quite a bit already about the continued UI UX modernization throughout the gradebook and the suite and the lesson plan rewrites. Dean had touched on earlier about the frontline platform from security items. Moving forward with that, we'll have some additional enhancement work we'll be doing around that this year. And then he also had talked about the continued committee enhancement priority items. So any of the enhancement requests that come in for either SIS or gradebook or data map, we have specific committees that we work with the ITCs on to go through and talk about, we actually go through and talk about each item, see how we want to attack it, how we want to prioritize it. So we have a list that we're constantly working on to try and get the most important and most requested items out and done. And a lot of the items I covered today were things that had gone through each of those committees. So there'll be a continued focus on those items as we move through 25. And then two bigger items that I'll touch on here in a little bit more detail is we are going through and updating our ad hoc reporting system. This is the reports that show up in the Analytics Hub. And then we are also working on rewriting the sysadmin mobile app. So we'll go through those here a little bit more in depth. So for the ad hoc upgrade, you may hear people refer to this as the Exago engine upgrade, and you're probably asking, what is Exago? That is the underlying tool that we use for the ad hoc reporting tool and those reports that show up in the Analytics Hub itself. So from a back-end standpoint, there's a lot of code out there that runs all of that. We have to go through and update that and migrate to their latest version. And we're doing this because it's going to give us a lot of performance benefits. We want to make it easier to create reports and get more information out there. I know that LACA, you guys have a wealth of different ways to get reporting data out. The team gives you tons of different ways to get that, which is awesome. So we want to make sure we make this as easy to use as possible for them to get you that information as well. So, we'll have some work to do as far as migrating these reports over. Any reports that are out there that are created already, we'll migrate all of that stuff over. And then part of the goal of this is to make scheduling reports and everything easier as well. So I won't spend a ton of time getting into the technical details in the background on this, but just so everybody's aware, our goal here is, just better performance, making it easier to create those reports. And, there's been a lot of longstanding enhancement requests with this as well that, we'll be resolving specifically to make it easier too for LACA to be able to push some of these reports out and get them out faster, for us to get them out faster to make those changes. So the big performance, I've touched on performance a couple times with this. The big thing we're focusing on is, if you've ever gone into one of those reports and one of those filter drop downs has spun for a while and takes a while, there's some various reasons why that happens. But one of the big benefits of this is that we'll be able to make those a heck of a lot faster based on the way we load those filter lists with this change. So I'm looking forward to that so that we can eliminate some of those times when those things just seemingly kind of go out to lunch. And the goal here is to also not have to make any huge underlying changes to the reports that are already out there, so that we don't cause any disruptions when we go to the new version. So just to give you kind of a quick idea, it generally the existing reports all look the same, run the same. They've really cleaned up the way the report designer looks, the way you can go in and create a lot of the reports in there if that's something that you've looked at before. And then what this will also do once we have this project done, is the next thing that we'll jump into from an enhancement standpoint, and I know this has been kind of an outstanding item that we've been asked for a while, is bulk letter creation. So this would be the ability to go in and create bulk attendance letters, grad points in bulk, discipline letters in bulk, those types of things. Then it'll allow us to add more types. But what we want to do here is, when we do that, is when you create them in bulk, also create the ability to push those letters into parent access. So similar to the way that the report cards work, this would give you another option to be able to push those out there to share them as well, possibly save you another mailing. But in the past, we've had requests to build a module to show grad points data out there. This would give you the option to take and push that grad plan out there as a way to get that information there as well. So there'll be a lot more coming on this as well. We'll work with LACA on it as we get closer to launching it and rolling it out. But this will be one of the big things that we'll be working on here in 25. All right, and the last item I was going to hit on was the sysadmin mobile app. So for anybody that's not aware, there is a sysadmin mobile app available out there right now in both app stores, but it's been out there for a number of years. I think we originally launched it back in like 2015, 16, so it's getting old and it needs an overhaul. So we're essentially rewriting that app from the ground up. It will follow, if you're familiar, we looked at the parent-student mobile app earlier. If you use the other frontline mobile apps for absence, it should seem very familiar as far as the style and everything that we'll be developing this in. It'll also be there for the new platform accounts. So when people move over to the frontline platform, it'll work with that. I'd mentioned it'll be available for iOS and Android as well. But our goal here is it'll provide you with the same functionality that you have in the current admin mobile app. So being able to go in and quickly look up a kid, see their demographic information, see their contact information, alerts, things like that. It'll just be a lot more modern and more easier to use. So just as a quick kind of give you a peek at what this is going to look like. When you download it, basically you still go in, you can search for a student by their name. You'll also be able to do it by ID, but it'll come back and return a list of students that match. You go ahead and tap on them, and it'll take you over to that far right screenshot, which is essentially their profile. So you can get some quick demographic information about that student. Alerts will show up at the top. So the same alerts that are in SIS will show up there. A lot of people will use this particularly for medical alerts. You tap on the alerts there, then it'll drop down and give you a more detailed explanation on that. Then you also can see the students' email, their phone numbers, if it's not showing up on this particular screenshot, but primary contact will show up here as well. You can look at all their contacts through here. Transportation information, if it happens to be in there. There's a number of other different things that'll show up here. This will also allow you to start discipline incidents as well from the mobile app. You can't fill out the entire thing here, but it'll let you go in. If you tap that report discipline incident, lets you get the basics started, the who, what, where, essentially, which will flow into the discipline incident queue on the SIS side where it can then be finished up. So, the goal here is quick hit information from a mobile perspective to get that information for a student. So, all right, I think that is to the end of what we have going. So, happy to answer any questions, or Megan, turn back over to you. I think you said you had some additional things to cover. So,
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Craig or Dean?
I have a question that I shot over to Matt this morning. I realized that was just shortly, pretty recent. So now that we have Frontline on the line, I'm going to ask these couple questions, if you don't mind. First, is there a way to upload custody documents on student information?
not currently, no.
Okay.
We don't have a place to upload the documents to store those.
Okay. Your competitor does.
Okay.
Just so you're aware of that. And it would be nice for us, I'm sure other districts, not go to a filing cabinet and be able to pull it up online.
Okay.
So if you could help us with that, that would be tremendous. The second question is
Hey, Matt, can I jump
Yeah.
in before you go to the second one?
Sure.
I think a big discussion around that is that has opened some of the security issues for the competitor. So I know most of our districts that do document storage use a different system completely so that it's not integrated within the student information system. And a couple of the ones with the other group are looking at other options now.
Okay.
So
If you have-
I can let you know what a couple of our districts are just stuck with DocuShare, but I'll see what some of the others are using.
Yeah, that would be super helpful, Stephanie. Super helpful. I appreciate that. And
Mhm.
then the second question is, in the day and age of reunification with active shooter drills and whatnot, we're looking for a simple way to check out students with parents. Let's say mom and dad they hear that there's an emergency at the school. They were both running to the school, and I give the kid to dad, and mom doesn't know. Is there a way in SIS that I can mark that student as being checked out to dad or mom, whatever the case may be, and just be real quick?
Not currently, but I can think of a way to do that. So basically you're looking like my first thought is a way to go and even in the mobile app that you could just say been picked up
Right.
like that.
Been picked up by dad or been picked up by mom, because the last thing I want to do, as you know, as a parent, if I hear my kid's not there, I'm automatically thinking bad things. So it would be nice to have that ability.
Okay.
I appreciate it, guys.
No, thank you.
Would they be able to see that through an attendance comment, possibly, Craig? If they put that in, and it was taken off by a parent.
Yeah, that is one way you could do it. Yeah, just say go in and enter that code, like a code for it somehow, and then put a comment in.
But then that would only be visible if you had those comments turned on, correct?
Correct.
If you went that route, because I know we are very cautious of what we have posted in our attendance for comments for parents
Yeah,
as to what they can see on the parent, at least on the parent access side.
yeah, that's correct, and that's a good call out on that.
You could put in like a reason code or something that would be picked up by parent or something like that that you could apply, and then it wouldn't have to be a custom comment. You could go that route as well.
Can I ask what other schools are doing right now? Kind of open it up to everyone to see if you have had situations like that, because I know there have been some of our schools that have had situations where they need to alert everybody and people kind of get picked up. So I'm just curious, in that situation, has anybody else run into that? And how did you go about doing that? If anybody wants to talk. So Marianne put into the chat, it looks like they must have used their communication option because they've sent the other parent a text. Anybody else? All right. Well, we will, and that's something that we can talk with at those committees that Craig had mentioned also. We have several people here at LACA that sit on different committees throughout Frontline. So it's nice that we have that voice and we can be able to kind of bring those items to the other ITCs across the state as well and get some feedback.
Craig, I have a question. I have been asked several times by my administration, why haven't you started civil rights? So I keep telling them, I'm waiting for the update. And I know you said next month. Can you give me a more, mid-month, second week, third week, just kind of get an idea?
On one of my slides, Rebecca, when you're up.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
No, it will hopefully be sooner rather than later, but I know LAC will have a date when they want to push that out. So
yeah, I actually will maybe share my screen now and show you that. There you go. That is tentative right now, based on how everything goes when we just got the play environment updated. So we're going to start doing testing on that, and we're going to start checking and making sure everything is running as needed and as expected. But tentatively right now, here are the dates for the upgrade.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Just a couple of quick reminders for scheduling sessions. I know it's scheduling season, and I've been talking with a lot of the districts that have already turned in their school year initialization forms, and we have everything built for that new school year. Some districts have already started promoting kiddos, and that's when the scheduling process can actually get started. I have one-on-one Zoom sessions that I've been doing with folks. I have a lot of them scheduled already on the calendar. If you would like to schedule a one-on-one, please reach out to me or have your high school or your middle school reach out. I have found that the one-on-one sessions work better because every school is just set up so differently. Even from the high school to the middle school. Now, if you share a lot of teachers, and I know a lot of our schools do that as well, your middle school and your high school share teachers, or you have a lot of high school courses that are offered at the middle school and you want to make sure your schedules, correlate and are together. I can do those two buildings together and that's not an issue, but I've really found that the one-on-one sessions really work well if you can, kind of lock yourself in a room for a day and just kind of have that day set aside for scheduling, and we can make sure we get everything in there and ready to go for you. So if you are looking to set that up, please drop me an email and we'll get that on the calendar. If you have a date in mind, if there's a PD day coming up that you'll have your staff ready to go, I would definitely send me those dates sooner rather than later because my calendar is getting full with scheduling. So just as a heads up to that, and I believe I'm still waiting on several school year initialization forms, but if you have turned your forms in, everything is built and out there and you are good to go. I have let you know if you did send that in, I have let you know that the whole district is ready to go if the district is good. If you're ready to start pulling up kiddos, some of our Connect friends, they pull their students up when they're ready, and that is perfectly great. If you would like some assistance with any of that, just let me know. And in LACA districts, if you are ready for that promotion, I have on my calendar, I think a couple of you are already scheduled for probably February 1st, I think is a date that a couple of you have out there. So students will start getting pulled whenever you let me know. Are there any questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to Beth.
Thank you. Just a couple things, and I mentioned all of this on the last meeting. The sign-up forms that I send out in the spring will be due by June 30th, and those will need to be turned in order to have your gradebook integration turned on in August. So we've never held to that before, and there's still forms I to this day of this year I haven't gotten back. So we really want to make sure we get those so that gradebook is set up exactly how you want it to be. So that we will be holding to that in August. We will require that sign-off form to be returned before we turn integration on. And additionally, elementary report card changes are due June 30th as well. It is hard to make those changes after school starts, especially for standards-based grading. I know I have tried for some, and little typos or things like that, not a big deal. But if we're talking major format changes or changing standards, I really need those by June 30th, so I have them ready to go in August for your teachers. And I didn't put this on here, but just to piggyback off Megan, training. If you want teacher training, refresher, new user, one-on-one, we can set all those up as well if you have PD days, or just if a teacher needs extra help during a planning period or before or after school, definitely reach out to me and I can set up just a one-on-one session or with a grade level, however you want that to look. I am here to help. And that's all I have today for gradebook, unless anyone has questions for me. Thank you.
All right, Jenny.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Megan and Beth. I just wanted to tone in and we're excited to have trainings and enhancements also for special ed and same goal. I added a link to the slide in case you're a new district to LACA or you need to update your special ed to be on my sheet to allow everyone to know about trainings or enhancements or other important information. Please click on that link and add your special ed. Also just added a few trainings that is coming up. One's tomorrow for some of the same goal new features. And then I am also holding a special education EMIS report training and some details on the bottom of that slide. Just to give some basics about special ed and how the special ed team can look and see what is being reported in EMIS. We're going to go over basics for special ed and how to kind of go through and manipulate that wonderful 1,000-page EMIS manual that can be difficult at times. So sign up. I'd love to see you there. And please share this with your special ed team. And then lastly, I just have the same with Beth and Megan. I'm here for any kind of training. If you need a new teacher, a teacher struggling in same goal, or you have special ed admins that would like to have more one-on-one training on how to go through reports or anything involved with same goal, there's all my information. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you.
Jenny, this is Diana and Heath. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
My special ed secretary said she received an email today. It was from a different user. I don't know if she's reached out to you, but you may want to just let people know that it is a safe email because we've been getting a lot of unknowns.
Yes, and they actually signed up for that training via Same Goal, and she did reach out to me. So it was from a Same Goal trainer, and it was registered at Same Goal. So she did reach out to me, and I let her know that it was a safe email. So thank you.
Okay, and next up we have Brianne.
Hi, I just wanted to remind everybody about our upcoming trainings we have. In February, we have our regular monthly meeting, open lab, and we do have EMIS Alliance trainings. It's to troubleshoot your FTE detail reports. Those are your student funding reports. There is 2 parts to that, and LACA districts, you'll register for those trainings on our website, just like you always do. Connect. If you want to attend our trainings, you'll have to register on our website at laca.org. Connect is also having their own EMIS Alliance training. So if you want to attend theirs, you just register on their website.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for our staff? Right now,
Megan,
go ahead.
sorry, it's Diana again.
Yeah.
I have a question for Beth. On data map, is there a way to show that a student has been retained?
I'm not sure. Matt Wagner, do you know that answer?
I'm not thinking so. Greg could chime in either. I mean, I think
There,
that would.
there used to be a feature because we had requested it years ago at North Fork, and it was basically just a yes, no. But somewhere along the way, that feature went away. So we have been working with Megan and Beth on a different route through miscellaneous comments in student information to be able for our teaching staff to know if we have a previous retention.
Yeah, a lot of times historically where I've seen it is districts will record that information on the report card and through the reporting features of the report card and do that there. And that's kind of where that's tracked, but that would be an option.
Okay, I was getting word that it used to be on data map and they were having a problem finding again. So, all right. Thank you.
So it's a good thing Craig's on here, is what I'm hearing.
I wrote it down.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Kim, also for mentioning that you guys did have that. We'll keep you updated, Diana and Kim, and probably all of the data map schools.
Thank you.
Or even not necessarily if it's in data map, but if it's somewhere where staff has the ability to see it. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be a data map thing per se, unless maybe you're a district doing your RIMS in there. But I do think it needs to be somewhere easily accessible for teachers who are looking at possible retentions so that they know whether a kid's already been retained or not.
Isn't
Yeah,
there a
that's exactly
report in
why.
Sync that we can run for retention?
There is one. It's not really super user friendly in my opinion because it pulls every single student and not every student is retained. And it only, I believe, shows like 4 years of, if I remember correctly, because I just ran that a week or so ago. So I'm not a big fan of it, but yes, there is a spot in Sync that you can run a retention report, but that would then have to be shared out with our teachers.
Remember, if there's any report you need in the system at all, just ask me for it and I will build any report you want and put it in the system directly for you, exactly how you want it to look and exactly the way you want it to perform. So I can get that in there for you really quickly if you want something like that. You're like, sounds like a lot of people want a retention report.
That'd be great.
Matt is definitely the man when it comes to reports. Amen, brother.
Yeah, I'm just putting a request for it. So it's putting a ticket, what you're looking for, and then we'll kind of hash out how you want that report to look, and then we'll get something put together for you. I do have several reports in the pipe right now.
All right, so I do have our YouTube channel out there. This is where our last meeting was posted at, and I apologize for the delay on that, but it is out there now, and we will post this meeting also. I will grab the presentation from Dean and Craig and hopefully get a PDF of that so that I can put that together and send it out in an email also. Our team has not set the next meeting date because typically that would fall in the March timeframe, and with spring break at the end of March, we just need to look at everybody's calendars to make sure that we can set a great time and look at all of the school calendars too to try to make sure that it doesn't fall on a date when you guys would be on spring break. So we're going to look internally at several dates, and then I will push that out when we have that next one on the schedule for you guys. So does anybody have any other questions for us?
I have a question and I'm not sure who to ask.
Okay.
We have a situation where the parent access accounts were attached to mom and mom passed away. And I was going to go and unlink the kids from that parent, but I now see that somebody has deleted those contacts for mom. So I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if that deleting that contact got rid of that link or if it's still somewhere. This has just been going on while the meeting's been going on. I'm like, oh no.
If you want to send me that that student so I can look at that specific situation, I might have to do it for you.
Okay. Because I figured I'd have to get rid of those before we can have dad create his own. And it's 3 children, so I'll go ahead and send you an email.
That's okay, great. Yeah, I'll look at it right now if you want to send it.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.